Have you ever felt like you were fighting battles no one else could see, but something deep inside whispered, you were meant for more? Welcome to Heaven's Chosen, where nothing is coincidence and everything is revelation. You didn't click this video by accident. You were drawn here because heaven has a message for you. In this video, you're going to discover powerful truths, spiritual insights that were hidden from the noise of the world, but prepared just for you. And by the end of this message, something inside you will shift. The battle already won, the victory already declared, and you are not just a survivor. You are one of the chosen. So get ready, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see your past, your pain, and your purpose. Welcome home. Welcome to Heaven's Chosen. You were never meant to blend in. From the moment you were born, heaven etched your name into its scrolls. You weren't called to be ordinary. You were marked to disrupt darkness with light. That's why you've never felt at home in the crowd. You were never of the crowd. You were chosen to stand out. Many mocked your silence, but your silence was strategy. While they shouted for attention, you were listening to divine instruction. The world mistook your stillness for weakness, but heaven saw it as surrender. And in that surrender, strength was born. Now, the very quietness they ridiculed has become the foundation of your elevation. You didn't fight with weapons. They wouldn't have worked anyway. You fought with endurance, with faith when everything seemed broken, with belief when answers didn't come. You stayed when it would have been easier to flee. That's what qualified you. Not perfection, but perseverance. The delays were not punishments. They were divine classrooms. You learned how to bleed without bitterness, how to carry your cross without broadcasting your pain. While others chased applause, you built altars in secret, and those secret places became sanctuaries of strength. Now the trumpet is sounding. Heaven isn't whispering anymore. It's announcing, loud, clear, global. This is not just your victory, it's your unveiling. What was hidden is about to be honored. You were the storm's survivor, but now you're the stage's speaker, and the world will witness the rise of the chosen. What the enemy tried to break in you only built you stronger. Every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment of rejection, it was part of a divine blueprint. What man meant for harm, heaven rewrote for glory. And now the final chapter is being released, victory. You thought you were disqualified because of your flaws, but heaven doesn't choose the flawless. It chooses the faithful, the ones who pray when they're tired, the ones who love even when they're bleeding. You were selected because your heart stayed soft in a world gone cold. There were nights you almost gave up, days you questioned if you'd ever be seen, ever be known, ever be lifted. But while you were questioning your worth, God was confirming your calling. You weren't abandoned. You were being anointed. Now comes the revealing. The shift is not subtle. It's seismic. Doors that once ignored you will open. People who overlooked you will turn their heads, not because of your power, but because of His presence. You are not arriving by popularity. You are arriving by prophecy. This is not a comeback, because you never left the path. You simply walked through fire while staying faithful. Now the ashes are being exchanged for crowns. The suffering is being traded for songs. And the angels are already singing. The battle is over. The chosen has won. There were moments when you begged God for just one sign that you were still on the path. But the silence wasn't absence. It was alignment. Heaven doesn't shout over storms. It waits for your spirit to be still enough to hear the whisper. And now, that whisper has turned into a decree. Your season of confusion is ending. You walked through places that tried to rob you of your identity. People labeled you by your past, but God always spoke to your potential. And no matter how many times life tried to rename you, heaven never changed its script. You're not your failures. You're not your trauma. You're who God said you were before the foundations of the earth. You've been tested in the fire, but you didn't melt. You forged. You didn't fold. You transformed. You're not coming out the same way you went in. Your scars don't scream of pain anymore, they declare purpose. And now the very battles you thought would bury you are becoming the blueprint for those behind you. Others saw your breakdown, but heaven saw your birth. You weren't collapsing, you were being rebuilt, brick by brick, tear by tear, and now the structure is strong enough to hold what's coming. Not just blessing, but legacy. Not just breakthrough, but kingdom expansion. The waiting is over. The wandering is over. The wondering is over. Heaven is aligning events, people, and moments that will make sense of your past. And when you finally walk through the door that's opening, you'll realize every delay was mercy in disguise. Not everyone around you understood your warfare. Some thought you were just emotional. Others assumed you were being dramatic. But only you and God knew the weight you carried in the spirit. The warfare wasn't around you. It was targeting what was inside you. And that's why the enemy had to fail. Because what's in you can't be defeated. You weren't just surviving attacks. You were learning authority. Heaven wasn't just protecting you. It was promoting you through pressure. The pain you endured became spiritual muscles. And now you don't pray the same. You don't walk the same. You don't respond the same. You've been upgraded without even realizing it. There's a shift in your voice. When you speak now, atmospheres change. Not because you're louder, but because there's weight behind your words. Your prayer life has become a weapon. Your worship has become warfare. You've crossed the line from being attacked to being activated. You used to cry and ask, why me? But now you're starting to understand, why not me? You were chosen for this, trusted with this. The assignment wasn't punishment, it was promotion. God saw something in you that could handle what would have broken others. That's not a burden, that's an honor. So stand tall, chosen one. The dust is settling, the fog is clearing, and the crown that was always yours is now being placed. Not because you demanded it, but because you endured for it. And heaven never forgets endurance. Sometimes God hides you to protect you, not to punish you. While others were building platforms, you were building character. While they were chasing followers, you were chasing God's voice. What looked like delay was actually preparation. And now, what was hidden in the shadows is being released into the light with glory. There were seasons where no one clapped for you. No one affirmed you. But still you kept walking. You kept believing. You sowed in silence. And now the harvest is coming in public. Not because of exposure, but because of obedience. You didn't need applause to stay faithful. That's why heaven trusts you with elevation. You've outgrown old versions of yourself. The mindset you had last year wouldn't survive what's coming. The habits you broke in private have qualified you for what's about to break open in public. You didn't just grow, you transformed, and transformation can't be undone. You're not who you were, and you'll never go back. What was heavy now feels holy. What once felt like warfare now feels like wisdom. God didn't just get you through it. He taught you how to win with your wounds. That's spiritual maturity. And that's what makes you dangerous to the enemy now. You're not just gifted, you're grounded. Now heaven is announcing what hell tried to keep quiet. This is not hype. This is holy. This is your moment of divine alignment. And no man, no demon, no delay can block what God has already declared over you. You are chosen, and the world is about to see why. They thought your story was over, but resurrection doesn't begin in applause. It begins in the grave. While they walked away, thinking it was finished, heaven was just starting. What looked like death was divine transition. And the stone they rolled in front of your future is being supernaturally removed. You were buried but not broken, forgotten but not forsaken. The silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. God was working behind the veil, rewriting the ending. And now the page is turning. The new chapter won't begin with sorrow. It'll begin with surprise. Because God specializes in impossible comebacks. Your breakthrough won't just bless you, it'll confuse your enemies. Those who thought they had the final word will be speechless, not because of revenge, but because of revelation. God is going to show them who you really are, not out of pride, but for purpose. Your elevation is about edification. You didn't climb your way out. God lifted you. That's why the glory goes to Him. You didn't fake strength. You learned how to lean. You didn't wear a mask. You wore the mantle, and that mantle is not coming off. You were prepared in pain for power. So now rise, not with noise, but with knowing. Knowing who you are, knowing who sent you, knowing what's been promised. You don't have to prove anything. Your presence is proof. The chosen don't chase. They carry. And you're carrying a heavenly assignment that can no longer be hidden. There comes a moment when the crown on your life can no longer be hidden. It's not made of gold, it's made of oil. An invisible authority that walks into rooms before you do. And now, it's beginning to shine so bright those around you can no longer deny what God placed upon you. You didn't ask for this favor, it found you. You were misunderstood because you carried something others didn't recognize. They tried to define you by surface, but the Spirit marked you deeper. People labeled you too intense, too quiet, too different. But God calls you set apart. Not everyone could walk with you because not everyone was meant to carry what you carry. The isolation you went through was not loneliness, it was consecration. God removed you to renew you. He stripped away distractions to anoint your decisions. While others were growing louder, you were growing deeper. And now, what was happening underground is breaking through the surface with undeniable force. You don't have to convince anyone anymore. Your life will speak. Your fruit will speak. The doors that are opening are not from effort, they're from obedience. You weren't trying to climb the ladder, you were building the altar. And now heaven is sending the fire. This next level is not a promotion. It's a prophetic manifestation. You've stepped into divine timing. The grace is heavier. The oil is thicker. And your steps are no longer random. They are royalty in motion. This is not a coincidence. This is the emergence of the chosen. You were never meant to fight every battle. Some of them were sent just to distract you. And now heaven is clearing the path. The false fights are fading. The real mission is calling. You're not a warrior because you fight everything. You're a warrior because you discern what's worth your energy. There were seasons where everything seemed like a test. Every relationship, every opportunity, every delay. But those trials were not to crush you. They were to clarify you. You know now what aligns with your soul and what pulls you away from purpose. And that's wisdom you earned in fire. You're walking with a different authority now. Your silence speaks, your presence shifts. You don't flinch at chaos anymore. You command peace. You don't react from emotion, you respond from revelation. The battles may still come, but you're not fighting for victory anymore. You're fighting from victory. God never told you to beg. He told you to stand. And now that stand is turning into supernatural movement. Things that resisted you before are now bowing, not to you, but to the one who walks with you. Because when heaven says move, nothing on earth can hold you. The battle is over, not because it ended, but because it can no longer touch your spirit. You've been sealed, strengthened, and sent. And what's ahead is not more warfare. It's manifestation. The storm trained you, the fire purified you, and now the promise is claiming you. You didn't go through what you went through just to survive. The wilderness was never meant to be your final destination. It was a proving ground. In the silence, in the breaking, in the unanswered prayers. Something greater was being formed, not just strength but spiritual precision, and now that precision is your superpower. You've seen too much to be shaken by surface-level distractions. You've endured enough to recognize what's real. Your spirit discerns truth without needing confirmation. That's what makes you powerful. The enemy fears you not because of your past, but because of what you know, and what you refuse to forget. What was once your weakness is now your witness. You don't hide your scars, you wear them as evidence. You don't avoid your valleys, you use them to lead others out. This is spiritual maturity. You're no longer driven by validation. You're moved by revelation. That shift alone is what unlocks what's next. You used to ask God for answers. Now you ask Him for alignment. That change in prayer posture is why doors are opening. You've grown into someone heaven can trust with influence, and that influence will be clean, not manipulative, pure, not performative. You carry something rare, and that rarity is what the world is hungry for. The world may not understand your journey, but heaven documented every step. And now the time has come for you to walk boldly. No more shrinking, no more second-guessing. You're not stepping into a season. You're stepping into your assignment, and everything you've endured is about to make perfect sense. It was never about comfort, it was always about calling. From the beginning, heaven had a plan, but the path wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to be effective. Everything you lost, every relationship that fell apart, every opportunity that vanished, it all pointed you back to purpose. And that purpose is now undeniable. You don't crave what you used to crave. You've been refined. What once tempted you now looks trivial. What once distracted you now feels distant. That's because you've been elevated, not just in calling, but in clarity. And when clarity comes, compromise loses its grip. You are dangerous now. Not because you fight with fists, but because you walk in truth. The enemy can't intimidate someone who knows who they are. And you know. You've been through too much to let the opinions of others define what God has already confirmed. This final stretch isn't about proving yourself. It's about positioning yourself. You don't need to be louder. You need to be aligned. The right people, the right timing, the right resources, they're already on the way. Your only job is to keep walking in obedience. Favor will find you there. So now, take the mantle, not with fear, but with fire. This is your divine assignment. The page has turned, the old has passed, the new is not coming. It's here. And heaven just made it official. The chosen has been released. The battle is over. Now begins the impact. What you've just heard isn't just a message. It's a confirmation. A spiritual reminder that you didn't break. You were built. That the pain had purpose. That your name was not forgotten in heaven's archives. It was engraved on its throne. You are not here by accident. You've been drawn by divine design. And if something deep within you resonated, if tears came, if hope returned, if your spirit felt peace, you already know. You are one of the chosen. Now I want to hear from you. What did this message unlock in you? What truth hit the deepest? What part of your journey suddenly made sense? Drop it in the comments, and if you've made it all the way here, write this in bold faith. Heaven's chosen. Let that be your declaration. Let it echo beyond this video into the realm where angels take notes and heaven moves. Like this message, if it spoke to your soul, share it with someone still in the battle. And if you haven't already, subscribe because more revelation is on the way. Until next time, walk in victory because the battle is over. Heaven has announced your name.